All right, well, good evening, everybody. I'm Jeff Lavender. I'm the interim superintendent here for the Casa Grande High School School District. I almost said elementary school district, but I caught myself. And
I'm Chris Lineberry. I'm the new principal for next school year here.
so one of the things in really looking at strategic planning and how do we move forward, one of the things that we thought was very important is we heard from our constituents and what you see that is going on. Obviously, since I was selected by the governing board to fill this position in early February, I've had the opportunity to meet and talk to many people about issues within the district. Since starting on March 20th, I have been going through and learning different things, procedures, and stuff that we need to put in place. Having been a feeder principal for both of our high schools for years, I'm very familiar with the two high schools. Serving on the city council, obviously I'm familiar with our community and things like that. But I don't have all the answers, and I may not be aware of all the concerns that are out there. And we're here because we serve you. And our job as the leaders of this district and as this school is to get us going in the right direction. So our schools are A+ award-winning schools. This isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some sweat, planning, some difficult days, difficult conversations, but it can be done because I've seen it done as a principal 3 times in my career. I've judged several high schools in Arizona. I've seen what I think is the top-notch high school in Arizona, Chandler High School, when I was their lead A+ judge. I've seen Tempe High School when we gave them A+. I've seen Westwood High School when we gave them A+. I went back to my school, McClintock High School, when we awarded it A+. All of these schools that I'm talking about had challenges. And the administration, the community, students, they all work together to achieve the things that they work for. And so I know it's possible. And tonight we're going to start and continue this journey by listening to you. Jennifer Quartzen, our school public information officer, is recording this. And so although I'm not going to be taking notes while we're doing this and getting distracted, we'll go back and watch the video and grab the notes from the video and really watch. 3 things that I want to cover with you, and then we're going to open it up and we want to listen to your concerns. But there are 3 immediate concerns that I wanted to share with you. The first 2 relates to both schools in the district, Union and Vista, and the third one I would say is more centered towards Union and where we're at right now. Do we have any Vista parents in here tonight? So we have one Vista parent. And so, but our number 1 priority, what we're working for, is school safety. And school safety involves a lot of things. Obviously, it involves having a strong procedure in place in the event that something terrible happens. And we had a situation this year on our campus, as many of you know, where we had a loaded weapon on campus with 2 rounds in it. And so we need to be very clear as an organization how we're going to respond to those type of situations in the future. On May 2nd, our governing board meeting, and we have some of our governing board members here tonight, we're doing a study session. And at that study session, we've got an individual, Tom Wolberger, who used to be the CFO at the elementary district. He's working with some community organizations and working on a plan. He's also got a standards protocol from the I Love You organization that talks about 5 different types of levels of when you have a situation that he's going to be sharing with the board. He's also going to be talking about the Raptor system. We currently have the Raptor when you sign in our campus, but that Raptor system can get much more intensive and do a lot more things than we're currently asking it to do. And Tom's going to talk about what's available there in the Raptor system. And he's going to be talking about what are some of the current best practices. Our chief of police, Chief McQuarrie, is going to be either he or be providing somebody from the Casa Grande Police Department there to talk about the work and how they can support this. Through the Pinal County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Lamb, we got a grant that we'll be working with, and I'm sorry, the name of the company escapes me right now. I think it's Ameritech or something. But each teacher or each staff member next year will have an app on their phone that if they're seeing an unsafe situation in which the administration needs to know about immediately, and we need to lock the school down, they can push the app, let us know, Chris, myself, and it also alerts the fire department, the police department, and it puts the school into a lockdown situation. So there's not a delay in locking down the school, and God forbid that something really bad is happening. Also, they will be able to, at that time, log in and have access to our cameras that we have all over campus, so the police and fire can try to pinpoint where is the problem, what is the problem, and immediately come up with plans there, as that's there. And so that'll be part of the conversation that night as well. And then next Monday, I have a meeting with a representative over the phone in looking at the cost for metal detectors and wands and what it would entail if the community feels that this is a resource that we need on our campus. So that's school safety that I want all of you to know is a huge concern that we are addressing. The other is our current students with special needs, our ESS population, educational, I just went blank. Exceptional services, thank you. The elementary, we've always called it special ed, so I'm trying to change that mindset. We have had systematic failure in this department, and no fault of any of the people that work in that department. I want to be clear on that. But systematically, we have had some issues. And we've got some tough conversations that we're going to need to have with parents of ESS students over these next couple weeks. And we're going to be meeting with staff on this Wednesday to prepare it for. But there's two, what I would call, major issues that we're dealing with. One is a lot of our students, when they were freshmen, and remember this was the COVID year, we did some accommodations that were struggling in algebra, and we took the first half of algebra, which goes August to December, and we extended it for the whole year, which is a good accommodation. We want to help kids be successful. But what happened was, coming back their sophomore year, they weren't placed in the second year of algebra. And it wasn't caught. And it wasn't caught their junior year. And so some of these problems started getting identified last year when we had some people look at it. We had an attorney help us identify the problems. The expectation is we were going to get them corrected moving into this year, and it didn't happen as quickly as it happened. And so all of a sudden now we're coming to March, and we're sitting down with kids saying, you need to take Algebra 2 all the way back to where you're freshman or sophomore year to graduate, and you can't graduate without that class. So that's an issue that we're working through and working with families, offering the opportunity to do intercession, some night classes, some Saturday classes, and what we can to help there. That's issue number one that we're really dealing with. The other issue is students that we would call as functional. And these are students that I would classify as lower IQ, that it's very difficult for them to be successful in a regular 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th and 12th grade class, because a lot of them can be cognitively on anywhere from 1st, 2nd grade level to about 6th or 7th grade level. And so we call these level C students. Level A are students that are included in the regular classrooms with support. Level C are usually in their own self-contained classrooms on their own separate curriculum. What has happened over these years is these classes are not being coded correctly. And here they are seniors, and we've got students with 22 credits, but we can't see any evidence that they've had earned their credits in their core subjects, which is language, arts, math, science, and social studies. And it's hard to go back now in the last semester of their senior year and say, hey, you've got to take all these classes. And so we have to have a conversation with the parents that say, This is no fault of yours and no fault of your child, but your child has not been appropriately placed in classes with appropriate curriculum during their time that they've been in our district. And we really have two choices. One is to allow your child to return and take those classes. And for some of these kids, it could take 4 years, and they could be here to their 22. Or there can be an agreement through what is called a prior written notice where the parent and the school agree, although my child did not receive those classes, obviously my child did receive an education, and we're accepting that education as they've received it, and we want the child to graduate. And so the parent, child, and most of these kids are going to be 18, so it's really the child's decision rather than the parent, and the school can agree to it. And so we'll be having those difficult conversations with people. And sometimes those difficult conversations, as we know, people will take the CG chat and express their concerns, displeasure on CG chat, and some of those things. We have to live with it. We have to own this problem, and we have to fix it. And so one of the things that I have done is I've hired a consultant, Dr. Maria Rascone, who used to be our special education director for the Casa Grande Elementary School District. She knows special ed law, she knows classes and things like that. She's bringing in a team from Phoenix Union of experts who are going to be working with our counselors and our teachers on what does our programming look like and how do we get it up to what is the current state standards. And then we've got a team coming from Tucson Sunnyside who'll be coming in and working with our teachers as far as implementation and things like this. We already are going to be required next year through some of the decisions that were made that all of our ESS teachers have to receive 8 hours in training that we will be providing. But you may hear some of that, and so I want to be very transparent with all of you. This is a systematic failure, and we have to correct the system, and we have to get it moving forward. And we will do that. And so Dr. Lineberry is well-versed on these things, and he will be able to take the work that we're doing with our consultants and move forward. Again, we're not going to fix this problem overnight because we got juniors. We're going to have to work with their senior year and do what we can. We got sophomores that we're going to have to, and then freshmen and things like that. So that's a huge concern as well. And then the third issue is addressing the school climate and school culture here at Casa Grande Union. And looking at creating procedures and things that there is respectful relationships between staff, students, that we're looking at improving student behavior. We're looking at improving student academic performance. We're looking at working with teachers and providing them the skills and working with them on the skills that they need to be successful. And so we'll be working on those. So those are our 3 biggest priorities that we currently have that we're working at Union. Chris, is there anything you want to say to the staff, to our guests before we kind of open it up?
I just want to thank you all for having me here. I also, to speak to the exceptional students, I have one at home. So that is a population that is near and dear to my heart. And having been a step parent to one of those children and watched what they've gone through in the system and how it's worked or not worked, I think gives me a different insight sometimes than others may have. And I'm here to support you and Mr. Lavender's vision for what this school can be.
So we want to open up to hear your concerns. We do want to caution you that sometimes we got to be careful that we don't name students, we don't name staff and things like that. We're really here to talk about the holistic solutions to the entire school. If there are specific concerns about behaviors of students, certainly meet and talk to me privately. If there are concerns about individual staff, I would certainly encourage you to meet with me privately. And as Dr. Lineberry takes over on July 1st, you can certainly, I know that his door and talking to his superintendent in Apache Junction, he is proactive in helping resolve issues like that. Any questions, concerns that anybody would like? Yes, ma'am.
One of my biggest concerns is my daughter's class size. She takes like an honors chemistry, and 60 kids, I think, or something like that, are in her class, and it's just not. We thought it was going to switch through the year, or it was going to get smaller, but it never did.
Yep.
And that's a major concern for me.
So the question is about the high class sizes in science, 60, 65 kids. We were 3 science teachers short this year. And so what I can tell you is we have filled those positions. And so we will have more staff next year, which will hopefully level it out. We're working with Ms. Turan, who is our assistant principal academics, to build the schedule so that doesn't happen. I think part of that was the implementation of the modern classroom. And the modern classroom can be an excellent tool for teachers to use. But one of the things we realized is we didn't do a very good job in explaining to teachers, students, community, the why behind modern classroom and why this can be helpful, because it's more what I would call a college-based type of teaching style. And it was mandated when we did, well, a lot of them we didn't provide the tools necessary for them to be successful. So one of the things is we have communicated to teachers next year, if you want to continue to work in the modern classroom, you get to develop your skills, we want to support you 100%. But if you're not there and you're not feeling comfortable yet, there is no expectation that your classroom is going to be total modern classroom. Does that help?
Yeah.
And so hopefully by having more science teachers and designing and giving teachers a little more flexibility on how to address some of these things, we can eliminate some of those struggles that you're talking with.
Yeah.
But we should not have any classes next year with 60 kids in
Yeah,
them.
like I was going to say, is there like a cap that we have, like a number that we stop for class sizes, or no?
That's a good question. I know at the elementary district, we tried to cap class sizes at 35 in middle school, and sometimes we would go up as high as 40. I could give you the academic answer that class size never proves to be detrimental to students unless it's under 15, which is really good for students who are over 45. We all know that a class of 40 is much more difficult to manage than a class of 30 and a class of 25. And so we're going to be, I think we try to build the schedule around average class sizes of 30, because although there were classes out there of 60 students, there were also classes out there of 10 and 15 students. And not the same subject. And those are things that we have to work on. But I would say the classes should never, ever be more than 40 students. And 40 is pushing it. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself as opposed to just what we've read about you, and maybe tell us why you chose Casper High School? Like, what made you decide that you wanted to come here and be a part of our community as a principal?
Did everybody hear that question? Okay, so I am the principal at Apache Junction High School right now. Prior to that, I was the principal at Stanfield Elementary School, which is a K-8 that is part of this high school district. I feel like having been there, my shoes fit. If you're in comfortable shoes, things tend to go better. If you're in uncomfortable shoes, they don't. And I felt like I fit there. I felt like I fit in Apache Junction, and I feel like I fit in this community because I know from my interaction in Stanfield quite a bit about it. I certainly have a lot to learn. I want to build something, and I want to help make things better. I've been a principal since 2005 from North Carolina, which is why I talk this way. You'll know if I've been home because the accent gets way worse when I come back. My wife and I have 6 children, 3 each. So we're a blended family, and it's a busy house. It's a busy house. But I'm really excited about the opportunity. And I've always been a firm believer that, kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. And those relationships that we build with kids is so important to how they end up doing academically and later on in life. The best teachers are the ones that kids talk about as being coaches, as being people who cared about them. I told my staff at AJ that, and I will say the same here, I want you to be an empathetic tyrant. An empathetic tyrant says, I understand where it is that you're coming from. I understand there are some things that may be challenging, maybe things at home are rough. That doesn't change the expectation I'm going to have of you. And I'm going to help raise you up to that level where you need to be. Did that answer your question?
It did. Can I ask you one more?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your why?
You. That's what, when I was at Stanfield, we started that. I don't know if you've ever heard those discussions about the why and the importance of why, but your why has got to be bigger than your obstacle. If your why is not bigger than your obstacle will win. And my why is every single kid that I come in contact with every single day. It's every staff member, it's every parent, it's every member of the community. So that, to me, is a bigger why than any obstacle that can be put in front of me. I love the story of Mike Tyson knocking out, now I've lost his name.
Buster?
Buster Douglas. Knocked out Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas got up and in the 7th round shocked the world and knocked Mike Tyson out. They asked him how he did it. His mother had passed away a week before the fight. And he said, my mama told everybody, my baby's going to knock Mike Tyson out. And I didn't want her to be a liar. His why was bigger than Mike Tyson. So my why is every person that I come in contact with, I want to do my best to help make them better.
Will you live here in Casper?
Not initially, no. I can't give you a date on when that would happen.
Will you plan to live there?
I would like to. I won't say that I'm not going to be straight, my wife works in Paradise Valley right now. So that's quite a drive for her. I live in Gilbert. We have had multiple discussions about moving here. And that's about as far as it's gotten.
Do you have high school children age?
I'm sorry?
Children high school age?
I have 2 that are, my daughter just turned 11 last week. My son is 12. I have, my wife has 2, a set of twins that are 20. The one is typical and the one is severely developmentally delayed and autistic. And then she has a 23-year-old daughter and I have a 26-year-old son and a grandson. So
the ones that are coming into high school age, will they come here?
if I'm living in Casa Grande, yes, they would.
Christine?
Hi. Mine's kind of a nuts and bolts question. The vaping on campus is out of control. I have 3 really good kids that go here, honor students, like whatever, I never made this, but it drives them crazy. To give you an example, in a Spanish class, when there's a substitute, a kid will literally drag the air purifier over, plug it into his side desk, vape straight into the air purifier during class. There's no consequence. There's nothing happening. The kids are tired of being snitches, right? Like, it shouldn't be on my child who's like, what the heck are you doing, to constantly be pointing this out to the teacher. It's out of control, and because of that, I know the bathrooms have been shut down. The fact that you have this size campus and you have 1 bathroom open in the afternoons is ridiculous. That it takes you 15 minutes to get to the bathroom and back. Like, I'm an elementary school teacher. I told my son, like, I guess your teacher just needs to take a whole group bathroom break. Because at this point, like, it takes you, because he's like, I missed 10 minutes of algebra 2, because I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom, and please let them not be cleaning it, because then I gotta wait till the locker room opens after school. And I know I understand the teacher side of me, I understand vandalism, I understand the vaping, but I don't understand like this, like, throw your hands up in the air and say, we can't fix this. Like, there should be a 0 tolerance for it. And it's out of control, like from the kids' perspective. Because I asked my 3 kids, I said, what is your biggest issue? And the one Mr. Lowry already hit on about climate. My daughter was graduating and said, it feels like prison. I don't deserve that. I'm over it. She said, you have to bring the joy back. My kids joke that it's where joy goes to die when they come here, like in their sarcastic teenager way. But that was her biggest concern, so I feel like you have that on your radar. But the vaping, the weed, it's continuing, and it's just, from their perspective, there's no consequence. So I'm just curious, like, what's the plan there?
That's a lot. I think that I can tell you that that's not a Casa Grande issue. Or did I say it right? Or is it Casa Grande?
I pronounce it Casa Grande, but you'll get half and half in here.
I was doing a talk in Nevada, and I said Nevada, and the whole room erupted and said I said it wrong. So, you know, that's an issue that's happening at high schools across the country. I can tell you that we've been able to significantly cut it down by being vigilant, having consequences, and also talking to kids about respect, responsibility, reliability, and being reasonable. And if they can do those 4 things, most of the other things take care of themselves. So, you know, I don't know enough to comment specifically on your concerns, other than I certainly intend to get up to speed on it, and that's something that is absolutely on my radar.
Well aware of the bathroom situation, and so that's something we have to take a look at. And I know that, I believe, somebody told me there are 12 bathrooms on campus. I may be wrong. And so we have 9 security guards. So we can't have a security guard in front of every bathroom because they have to be well positioned around the campus. But during a transition time, or before school, after school, with 2,000 students, 9 security guards cannot adequately cover this campus and be visible. And so, you know, one of the things that I have shared with the administrative team is only one administrator should be in the office in the morning. The rest should be out on campus, out circulating around, being visible. And, you know, we need staff support out there as well, whether it's our educational assistants out, but we need a strong presence of adults. They need to be strategically placed. Well aware of the concerns that the bathrooms are not safe. And so obviously Dr. Lineberry and we're going to have an administrative retreat with the entire administrative team here on May 30th and 31st. These are some of the topics, Christine, that we are certainly going to bring up. And so we are going to fix those things and get them better. But Chris, it's an epidemic that is sweeping this country, the vape using, and it's difficult. But a lot of it is drugs, and it's still illegal to consume drugs on our school campuses.
Well, right, and the kids know that that's illegal. They know that that should be a 0 tolerance.
Absolutely.
Thing. And so that's why I guess they're kind of why is this just so permissible? And I understand like being at MASH, I get all of that, but you know, when you have a kid sitting next to you in class vaping openly, blowing it in your face, like, you know, that shouldn't be what's happening.
Absolutely.
So that's,
And so what we have to do is we have to establish relationships with our students where they feel comfortable as well if the teachers aren't seeing this, and support our teachers in doing it. But it's something that we cannot accept. It's okay and just continue to say we're going to operate under these terms. Will not. It's not fair. Answering the question here, similar to Dr. Lineberry, when I first came down to Casa Grande and I see the Aikens sit in the audience, they were some of the first supporters I came down here. I danced around that question too. My plan was come down here 5 years, get the experience as a principal, and then we lived in the foothills in Kyrene School District, continue to commute. But after a year, I said it's not fair to the students, the community, for me not to be a part of the community. We made the decision to move down here. My daughter graduated from this high school. And I want the students that go to this high school, or the students that go to Vista, to feel safe at school like she felt safe at school when she attended this school. Because she never came home and told me stories like that. You know, she didn't always come home and tell me she was challenged every day, but she didn't tell me stories like that. And these are things that we need to address. I thought I saw a hand over here. Yes, sir.
As far as the modern classroom, one thing you mentioned is that giving the teachers the tools that they want to do it. If you don't like that style as a parent, you have an option if that teacher does.
If you don't like the modern classroom,
Correct.
and you have a teacher that's primarily using the modern classroom,
Yes.
that's something that I would bring it to the attention of the administration very quickly, because, you know, changes can be made early on. Sometimes we wait too late, and things have been established and moving and things like that. And so I would immediately bring it to our attention. We know that not every child is going to gel with every teacher, and we want to create situations where our students are successful. Anything else you'd like to add on that?
No, I just have a lot to, I don't know what the processes have been here as far as that goes. So I know that where I am, we give the first 10 days of the semester for possible changes to be made to the schedule, and for those to be, they put in a form, they put in their request, we see if we can honor the request, and then we move forward from there.
At least this first year, all freshmen had to do it, from what I understood. So there was no flexibility.
This year, all freshmen are required to do the modern classroom in language arts and math. That is not the expectation moving forward. Yes, sir.
So I would like to talk about the drug use problem you went over. Like, it's not just like a one-person thing, and it's not a problem that can just be solved overnight. Because I walked into the bathroom in the cafeteria over there during lunch, and I've seen like 15 people. They blew through the stalls and everything, and there's like not much you could really do with just 9 security guards going around.
You're absolutely right. That's why we need... Okay, good. Thank you. So what he's saying is, he's talking about the drug problem, that how widespread it is. He's addressing in the cafeteria, sometimes there could be up to 15 people in there. And he just said what I said, 9 people cannot police this entire campus. That we have to involve more staff and get more staff out there and eyes and ears. So for example, we have 1,000 students out for lunch. And we have 2 different lunches, each are about 1,000. We need 25, 30 staff members out and about during lunch periods watching what's going on. It can't just be 4 or 5 security guards, because some of them are going to be in other locations. We have to increase that presence. We have to create time schedules. We have to create, you know, at this time we expect you to be here. And when you're on duty, you're not standing there talking to another friend, you're moving around in that. And then part of it is conversations, having conversations with kids. One of the things I can tell you from walking around Union the first couple of weeks I've been here, and some of these kids are Vavago students, they know who I am, saying hello to them. Kids aren't used to being spoken to by adults here, and we need to increase those conversations in that, because a couple of times I say good morning to a student and they double take me. And I've had others who have visited the campus and doing some things, and they have shared with me the same insights, as we really do have to continue to create that culture where there are conversations going on. But you're absolutely right. We have to do better. Katie.
I just wanted to touch on that. I know it's on your radar. You've been talking about it, about the kids, having those relationships with them. Just having talked to a few kids to ask them about how things have been going and what they would like to see. And a lot of it is that their ideas have been shot down for the last few years. Things have been canceled. They want to have events. They want to have the pep rallies. They want to have the fun activities. And they keep getting told, no. Some people might get hurt. No, we're not going to do that. Or they get avoided so long, they give up.
Yeah.
And so they do. They feel like they've just been, there's just no way they can do anything, and they really feel that. Especially these kids who are willing to lead and willing to step up. So we know that it's on your radar, and that's coming from many of these kids. So we just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I know the students who went to Valago know pep rallies were my favorite activity of the year, or the favorite things that we do. We need to do that. We may not have a B-wall here, but we need to find ways to recognize the students that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and honoring those students as well. We need to be honoring and recognizing staff that are doing outstanding things. And so part of that is just shifting the mindsets. It's very easy to get yourself into kind of a tunnel and think, you know what, things are so bad, we can't get out of this. And we can get out of it. But we're not going to fly out of it. We're going to have to go step by step and do that. And one of the classic examples, and Mike Lamone's sitting over here, he was at Cactus when we talked about doing the Unity March the first year. I think it was 2003, we did the Unity March at Cactus. And of course, who's going to the Unity March? Well, we want to take the advanced students, the band students. And I said, no, we'll take all the students. If the students don't want to go, they can opt out, but we'll take all the, you're going to take 800 students and have them walk a mile from Lencola over to City Hall? Are you crazy? You know what? We set that expectation for the kids. This is what we're going to do. We had procedures in place. And we've done the Unity March now, I think, for 17, 18 years. And has it been perfect every year? No, we've had a couple small incidents here or there. But overall, it's always been, and each year we've had positive experiences. But it is trusting that if we set expectations for the students, that we work with them, they achieve it, because they want these things. And that. Ma'am, all the way back here.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, both of my daughters graduated from Union. We've watched the safety go downhill in those past several years. You talked about increasing security presence. I know my middle daughter, one of her biggest complaints was that they were more concerned about dressing girls than anything else, and they would turn a blind eye to a lot of things that they should have been addressing. What is the plan to increase the presence? Does it include, I read about Tom Horn's grant program to have resource officers on campus? Is that part of the plan? And what are you doing to address the safety?
Part of it's just expectations, ma'am, and creating structures and procedures in place to make sure that staff are spread out and there's an expectation that we're going to cover those areas. And so, and it's identifying how many do we need to cover, and creating that. And then working with staff, what are we looking for? One of the things we're looking to do with our security officers during the 3 days that staff reports back, that before the students arrive, is working with our security officers and training them. Because what we do is we hire them off the street now and we ask them to go supervise, but we don't train them. And so what are the types of things you are looking for? How do you de-escalate a situation? If there's a fight, how do you handle that situation where you don't get yourself hurt? Because a lot of our students here are bigger than most of our staff. And so we don't want staff just diving into the middle of something like that. What are the procedures in place in doing that? And so I know that sounds like a simplistic answer, but when we start doing like that and we identify using data, what are our points of concern, then we can address that and really dive into certain areas. Right now, as you've talked about, students being late to class is a concern. Bathrooms not being safe is a concern. Students using drugs on campus are, because there's several concerns, and a lot of that just comes down to not having proper eyes out there and not deterring that type of behavior. As far as Mr. Horn, the deadline to submit a grant for a school resource officer was on Friday. Currently, right now, the city of Casa Grande has 90 sworn police officer positions in the city, and there are 82 current sworn officers. When we hire an officer, we have to send them to the academy, go through the academy, go through field training in that. And usually it's about a 9-month process from when they start the academy until they're out on the street. The initial first year cost of a SRO is about $250,000. Now the question is, at what value do we put somebody getting harmed? Obviously, if we could spend $250,000 and ensure none of our students are going to get harmed, it would be money well spent, wouldn't it? And so, but the other issue is this. The priority from our police department and our city, again, we had a shooting downtown last night. Fortunately, nobody was injured, is we have to fill those 8 positions. The grant that Tom Horn had is we had to hire that officer and have them trained and on campus by December 31st. There's just no way that we were able to do that within that time period. And so to submit the request, and if we got funded for it, we were not going to be able to fulfill that because it wouldn't have been the priority right now for the city is to fill those 8 positions. Because what Chief McCroy will tell you is, if we do a call out or through the system that I talked about earlier, and we say there's an alert, he'll have 6 officers on campus within a couple minutes. And a couple years ago, we had a bus driver at Valago that thought they heard a student say that he had a gun, and they alerted the director of transportation, and I watched 6 police officers swarm that bus loop very quickly. And so they can respond pretty quickly. So it's getting the word out. So that's the balances that we have to do. But I'm going to be transparent with you and say it's just not possible right now with the shortage of police officers to get an officer up and moving. I'm hoping that maybe our legislature might start looking at what are some alternatives to hiring sworn police officers. Because right now the federal laws are pretty clear that they're the only ones that are allowed to be armed on campus. Can we start looking at some possible other alternatives to have security on campus that might be able to respond in those type of situations? And there's gives and takes in every one of those, but that might be a possibility moving forward. But right now, certainly our hands are tied there. We did, because they extended the window, we did apply for a second social worker for both of our campuses. We got one approved already, and so we did go ahead and apply for a second one, and so we're hoping we'll have 2 new social workers on both of our campuses next year. Yes?
Years ago, I don't know how many, we used to have alternative schools.
Uh-huh.
So that students who have been disrupting the learning environment so much were still getting an education, because that's what we need to do, but not in an environment where they were disrupting the education for a lot. Because the few bad apples are creating the climate that we're addressing today. What can we do going forward to remove these disruptive people from our regular campus and classrooms so the students who want a positive learning environment can have it?
Well, there's several challenges in that, but I think it's a conversation that we need to have. And we have some board members here tonight that just heard that, and there's a conversation. One of the issues is we used to have the alternative school at the VOTEC building where the district office is now. That is now being converted to a school for PACE, which is a school for workforce development that'll have 125 students on campus next year. And so housing them there may not be feasible right now in what resources we have available there. And so it's something that needs to be looked at, absolutely. Because not every student's gonna fit into a one-size-fits-all box. And so we offer variety certainly here at campuses with CTE programs, electives, advanced classes, regular classes, and those type of things. We have to look at some of those things, or we do have some viable alternatives in our community through PepTech, Pinnacle, and some of those that may be a better option for some of our kids if they cannot comply and they're too disruptive to our system. Donna.
Just to add on to that, prior to the kids going to VOTEC, we had night school here on this campus, just so you know. I don't know if we were here then when we did that.
Were you just volunteering to be our night principal?
Mr. Lavender, it's the one thing I haven't done yet while in this position. So let's talk.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I know we bring foreign countries with on visas.
Yes, ma'am.
What are we doing with some of these language barriers that's going on?
So, couple things, and we know there's a concern. We know there's a concern with communication, and that's something we have to work with them on. And there are some remedies. Nicole brought some ideas today that I hadn't heard of when we met with the school council tonight before this meeting. We need to provide a good support system for these teachers that we are bringing over from foreign countries. They are fulfilling for us a vital need in that we are short teachers. And so, and as I was sharing with Nicole, I think right now we have 13 openings at Union. I think about 4 or 5 teachers are in the pipeline to be hired, so there were about 8 openings. As we look through our candidates, most our candidates left are not from the United States. We've kind of, as we look at candidates, that's really first thing we look for. Are they local? Are they from the state of Arizona? Are they from the U.S.? And that, because we realize the challenges that we have. And we've hired some excellent teachers from foreign countries. We have an excellent teacher right now in our foreign language. He's from Spain, a really strong teacher. And so we don't want to generalize that as well. And some of them speak very clearly and others the challenge. But we have to build the support system for them. And so there's ideas that I have and exploring possibly, because one of the biggest challenges they have when they arrive in the United States is where do you live? And as you well are aware, in Casa Grande right now, we have a housing shortage. And so finding them a place to live is a challenge. So locating homes is, as a district, can we do some subleasing of homes and then lease them back to the staff? And so when teachers come in, we have a place for them to go live in that. And so do we have do we go to the airport? Do we meet them there? Do we get them down here? And then they got to go set up a bank account. And there's all kinds of things that we need to help them do. We need to offer that support. And so it's kind of a multifaceted. It's supporting their personal needs as well as supporting their professional needs. And then schooling is very different than the Philippines than it is here in the United States. And it's working with them and understanding how education is different here, but also them understanding that we do want to establish expectations. It's not a free-for-all. They do not have to tolerate students using vulgar language in the classroom, racial terms at them, and things like that. And so it's 3 facets. Did you have a follow-up, ma'am?
I do. The
Yeah.
counselors. I remember when I went to school, I had one counselor my whole time there. Why are we putting these students with a different counselor every single year?
Okay.
We have no consistency.
I'm not aware of that practice, but I think I do appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Is that how you do it in AJ?
No, sir.
You do cohorts?
So I have one counselor. I have a much smaller school. Obviously, we have 1,000 kids. So I have 2 counselors. One counselor does 9th grade and 11th grade, and the other does 10th and 12th. Then the next year, that person has 9th grade and 11th grade that had 10 and 12. So they're staying with the same kids all the way up.
That would make perfect sense to me as well. We need long relationships with students because a lot of times the counselors may know things about them that the teachers don't. And we shouldn't have to relearn about our students every year.
Those relationships are key.
So that's a practice that we'll need to take a look at. Part of it just may be we've had a pretty significant turnover in our counseling department. And so people leaving. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So, first of all, welcome to Casa Grande. My biggest concern, I have a freshman, and I will have 2 incoming freshmen, is the communication from teachers, from administrations, from counselors, from anybody. It's impossible, yeah. It's impossible to get a response from teachers, from administrators, without having to go in, and even then, we sit for hours waiting for them to come. I know coming from the middle school that, administration doors were always open. They may take 10, 15 minutes to get to you, but they're right there. So I just thought with Union going into my son's freshman year that there would be a little bit of consistency. And I was floored by the fact that we can't get responses through email, through voicemail, through anything.
And I have better luck with the teachers than I have like admin
Yeah.
counselors. I get no response. I'm still waiting for 10 months.
So let me let Dr. Lineberry, since he's going to be the principal here, talk about communication and his expectations.
So what I have always said is within 24 hours, you should get a response. I told my wife when we got married, if you're looking for perfection, prepare for disappointment, because it's not me. So I can tell you, I will make every effort to return emails within 24 hours, phone calls within 24 hours, and that's my expectation. The other thing is, I send weekly emails out that kind of outline what's going on in the school, things that seniors may need to know in order to prepare for graduation, whether it's about ECAP, or it's about state testing, or it's about cap and gown, or it's about sport events that are coming up that week, or a counselor's corner, or whatever. And then I also, and I'd like to start one here, I started a podcast where I would interview teachers and kids, and then the podcast goes out, and whoever wants to listen to it can listen to it. And it gives a different perspective sometimes. I think communication is really important. You'll always get clear, concise, honest communication from me, and I will always be transparent.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, and if I fall down on any of those, I expect you to call me on.
Well, I
I saw a hand way in the back. I want to, and then we'll come to you guys. Yes, I can't even see who it is though.
Light, darkness, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so in response to the counselor shifting per student kind of thing or whatever, so that actually was happening over at Vista as well. And I guess that we put in enough information to support why that was not a good idea, to where it actually changed back to where the same counselor with the same student with the same last name. And I can tell you that we personally had a problem with that because we have 4 students that we were sending to the same high school. And it absolutely made no sense for a different counselor to be with each of our students. And it also brings in that entire family dynamic to where the students themselves can trust the counselor because they know that they have their older sister or their older brother or whatever the case may be. So it is being done currently in the district right now this school year. I don't know how you're going to be able to change that back for you.
Thank you.
Follow up to the email comment that when she was talking about that. There's a big push for our children to advocate for themselves, and I am a big proponent of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my 504 student, when she goes to college, is going to have a disability resource plan, and she's going to need to be able to advocate for herself. But I have her CC me on those emails. But she can't do that from the school email system because nobody in the school email system can email anybody outside the system. Which I think is ridiculous because if our students are going to be setting up interviews with community members and working on projects, the fact that they have to communicate through their private Gmail account is much more dangerous than monitoring all those emails through the school email system. That being said, when it goes out through her Gmail to me and the teacher, and the teacher follows up with her in the classroom, not via an email, 1, I don't have a paper trail of it, and 2, the teacher's now no longer communicating with me also. She is still a minor, and I'm still a part of this. So I would like to encourage if teachers get communications from students via email, that they have intentionally CC'd their parents on, that those responses, even if it's a follow-up. I spoke with Meg in class today, and this is what I told her, so that we're all on the same page. So she's advocating, but I understand what is the follow-up to that advocacy. But I have, getting a hold of teachers this year is the worst it's ever been for me. They don't reply to me. The counselors don't reply to me. The only person who consistently applies to me, and we've had 3 of them this year, is the attendance clerk. Every attendance clerk we've had has replied to me with no issue whatsoever.
And Nicole, now you know why we selected her as Employee of the Month. So,
communication right with the parents, you're gonna see more respect from the students, because if the parents respect the system here, the students are gonna. But I know I kind of will sometimes voice frustration at home, and then I feel, yeah, and my daughter's hearing that, you know, so it's gonna definitely help.
You're absolutely right. Communication is vital, because you all have a stake in this,
I think that's why.
and we have to continue to operate that our stakeholders are part of the process, and we're going to work with our stakeholders and not work against them. You're absolutely right.
I feel like that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of people went to CG Chat, because, you know, when parents and the public gets shut down from such a huge part of Casa Grande, it was very difficult for many.
You're absolutely right. Yes?
It's also kind of like impossible to communicate with teachers outside of the classroom. Like, I've sent multiple emails to teachers and still haven't got a response. Like, I have to, like, I don't want to say names or anything.
Yeah, please don't.
But I've talked to one of my teachers, and I've had to have my mom come down to the school multiple times for this one teacher so I can get something done.
Yeah. So he asked about communication with teachers. And I want to be very clear. Teaching has never been harder than it has these last few years with the pandemic. It has changed so much in education. I am not saying this as an excuse for lack of communication. What I am saying is they've got a lot on their plate, and by us working together and Chris putting in these policies, procedures, we can improve upon these things, which should improve upon communication. I am a storyteller, and if those of you who know me know that I like to tell stories. So one of the things, we're going to do a district-wide meeting on the first morning, all staff come back, which I believe is on Monday, July 17th. I'm working on having a guest speaker come in, and I don't want to give out too much information about our guest speaker, but he tells a very powerful story about somebody who came out from behind the counter and changed his life and his trajectory. And he does a TED Talk called From a Dope Dealer to a Hope Dealer, and he has now got a PhD. And how his life got turned around by people believing in him. And so that coming out from the counter is something that we need to talk about. Too many times we have a window in front of us that creates separation. Us coming out from that counter, sitting side by side with a student, sitting side by side with a parent, sitting side by side with a teacher, and walking them through and helping them problem solve will be very helpful. One of the communications I've had with our board is, one of the trends that I'm seeing is we're not always solutions-based here. Now, solution-based does not mean that we're always going to put 4 or 5 people at the table and everybody's going to be happy with the solution. But everybody's going to at least have the opportunity to be heard. All points are going to be considered, and we're going to address that. Mr. Lamone was at Casa Grande Junior High when I became a principal there in 1997. When an assistant principal used the phrase once with a parent, "You have us confused with Burger King. At Burger King, you get it your way." Now, I made it very clear, we don't use language like that. That is not going to solve problems when it's always our highway or our way or the highway type mentality. We don't solve problems. It just creates a really oppressive situation where people feel like they're not valued, they're not being heard, so they take the CG chat. And so we need to work on so we can solve our problems and not have to resort to those type of communication methods. Because my frustration always with CG chat is sometimes they only have half the story. And we as educators can't share the other half of the story because we're violating their FERPA rights. For example, last week, one of the middle schools got taken to task because a student claimed that the teacher was forcing them to call them MX rather than Mrs. Not true at all. The student was upset because the teacher assigned the student a consequence, so he went home and diverted all that anger And it got as, well, I'm angry by telling her that when it wasn't the case. Now, nobody went to CG Chat and apologized to the school or the teacher for incorrect information being shared on CG Chat. But there's a common belief out there that there's a teacher at CG Chat who is not sensitive or believes in forcing kids to dress in a certain way, which just is not the case. And that's the danger sometimes in CG Chat, is a lot of times we believe this is the gospel truth. Please don't quote me on that. And so, it is a tool that is being used in our community, but it's not the long-term tool that's going to solve our problems, because we need dialogue and we need to be heard. So we talk about solutions-based. We need to be solutions-based. And so all the things you're talking about tonight, Chris will be working with his school council team, his administrative team, his staff team, and we're going to come up with solutions to these. And we're going to implement these solutions. Sometimes we're going to fall flat on our face, and then we're going to say, all right, what didn't work, what worked, and then we'll get it right. We're educated people. We know we can get it right eventually, and all of you have great ideas, and you have so much at stake because we're talking about your babies. And I realize they're 16, 17 years old, but they're still your babies, aren't they? Katie.
I just wanted to add to please communicate with us as parents too. I know there's many, in here too that volunteer and are happy to help if there's ways to do that we can help this communication become better, and if it's teacher appreciation, helping that sense of joy come back for the teachers as well, and as well as the kids. It's just good to know about opportunities that we can fulfill for you guys as well.
So are you stepping up to be PTO?
I don't know about that, but
That's what it sounded like to me.
I used her for 5 years, so I know, and absolutely, Katie, and I appreciate that, because you, again, those years you served as our PTO president, it was such a great resource that we had at the school, and we do, and we need to, a lot of times we don't ask for the help. Is that a answer? Yes.
What's your view on the policy of sweeps?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it, I don't know if there's a good way to do it, because you want students to be in time in class, you don't want disruptions in class, but then sometimes people seem to be inadvertently caught up in their out for an hour.
There are, well, we need to learn more. We really do need to really bring in all the stakeholders into this. We know there are issues with SWEEP, and we know that a one-size-fits-all approach isn't necessarily working. When we talk about the number of kids being tardy to class, the number is coming down. Are we creating anxiety? Are we doing other things where we can look at an individual basis? Yes. So when I talk about solution-based, it's Dr. Lineberry meeting with the school council, meeting with the staff, and doing that. I will tell you this, that Vista doesn't have SWEEP because they chose not to go in that direction. Union chose to go in that direction. It was a problem here at Union that wanted to be addressed, and that. Was there total buy-in? Was the why explained? And some of those other things that I've talked about? I don't know, I wasn't here then. And so it's something that is on Dr. Lineberry's radar because he's heard about some of the frustrations with it and things that need to be done. And so, again, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to do, and how do we need to, ultimately what we want is kids in class and kids performing. Attendance has not rebounded from COVID. Our attendance continues to be woefully low for many, many reasons. We need kids back in class, we need kids learning, we need kids engaged in class. Is there anything you want to say on that?
No, I I think there are some things that we can do, but again, I need more dialogue with staff and stakeholders before I could say, yay or nay on anything. I have my own ideas about what I think ought to happen, but I certainly want to defer and listen to what the staff has to say and listen to what you all have to say. And I have heard very clearly that there's some heartburn over sweep.
When you say stakeholders, do you include like student leaders in that too?
Yeah, so let me address that. So at Apache Junction High School, when I started there, when we came back from COVID, we had 8 kids, roughly 8 to 15 kids in our student council. This year we have 80 that have signed up to be involved next year. It's because we've given them a voice and they're a part of the solution. So I believe strongly in that.
Yes.
I have a comment about attendance. My daughter is a gifted child, very smart, loves school. This year, she has ditched 20 times in a biology class that is taught by a foreign teacher that she's taught on a computer. The teacher doesn't get up and teach. The first couple of times she ditched, I went in and spoke to disciplinary. They said, oh, I have kids that have ditched 50 times. She's passing the class, no big deal. I went in the second time. I have kids, same discipline person, not the same, and said, no big deal, she's passing the class. I said, she has 9 absences. You said she cannot pass. She sent an email to me every time. When do we hold the child accountable? If you would give her detention, she would do it again. Last week, she did it again. 20 times she has missed that class. I went in, different person, the other person was not there, and I said, I will sit here until you give her detention. They gave her 3 days in-school suspension. She was mad at me because I made them do it, and it's my fault that she ditched. She goes off campus. And she learned her lesson. On Friday, she said, I will never do that again. She walks off campus in this other, when you go out, that gate right there, and she walks down to Price. I caught her walking to Price, I brought her back to school, gave her to security, and they weren't going to do anything with her until I came in and said, when do we hold these children accountable? I know the security guard there, she said, I do things, they don't do anything about it. They are tired of it. I have another customer of mine, I'm a hairdresser in town. Her granddaughter was off the drugs. I said, what did they do for you? They suspended her for 5 days. I said, what did the police department do? They called the police department. When do we hold our kids accountable? Our security guards would be more apt to do something if we hold them, these kids accountable. If you give them suspension, then they're not going to ditch. But they ditch because they get away with it. And my daughter said that. Why didn't you turn me in? I get away with it every time. You made me mad. So that needs to be addressed.
You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry it got to that level. And I wish when I was ditching school in high school, you would have done that to me as well, because I could have learned that lesson. You're absolutely right.
I know that, I can't comment on what's happened in the past, but I can tell you that that's not how I intend to operate.
And she is getting F in that class, and my son also is in that class, because it is a class that of 16 people that they have split now. But the teacher never upgrades to Power School. My son also says that she puts a video on, she never speaks in front of the class. She hands out papers, and they do papers and turn them in, and she never upgrades any missing work that my kids have turned in, or it's just missing, and she never gets to it, and Power School's never upgraded. My son could have, or my daughter could have 10 missing assignments, and she still has 80 in that class. I don't know how that doesn't compute in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I know that is very personal, and we have to get better,
Yeah.
is all I can say. and holding people accountable. Over here, then I'll go to Roxy, and then I'll come down here. Yes?
I don't know if either one of you can, obviously Dr. Lineberry can't because you're new, but I know Mr. Lavender, you probably heard about this at the beginning of the year with the schedules. And I don't know if that was a staffing issue because you're aware of the high turnover rate in that department. But my daughter went through that, and I know some other parents in here had kids who went through that and had to sit the whole day in the library waiting for their turn. So they're missing out on the education just to fix. The students, again, have to be their own advocate to fix this so that our kids can graduate this year.
Yeah.
Is that been resolved? Because right now my son, who's going to be a freshman, is on the waiting list at Mission Heights, because I know that's not a problem over there. And
Right.
someone who, I went through this entire district, K-12, I was a student, and now I work for the elementary district. I don't want to send my son to a non-public school, but I will, if it means he's going to be academically successful.
Yes, and I totally understand, ma'am.
Because they both been your students. So you know how good they're going to be.
Mm-hmm. I think there were a couple things that happened in the summer. I wasn't here either, but that's not an excuse. But what I'm aware of was that some decisions were made to go to a team teaching model without really looking at all of the factors in it and not knowing for sure if our teachers were prepared. And that team teaching model, part of the challenge that we have is today is April 24th, I believe. If we were to hire a teacher from the Philippines today, it's not very likely they're going to be here on July 20th. The process takes that long to get them here. But if they're the only candidates we have right now, those are things we have to look at. But that's one of the things that happened last year is a lot of our guest teacher, Filipino teachers, were hired very late in the game and they weren't here when school started. And so we were moving teachers from the team teaching situation out into other classrooms to cover classes. And that is unacceptable. So that was one problem that we had. And then the schedule not being done. I can tell you that Andrea, Mrs. Turan, is locked down. And she spent a week at the district office working and trying to get that master schedule done. It's my expectation that it's going to be done before anybody goes on summer vacation. And so we don't face some of those challenges coming into next year. Creating master schedules is very complex, but that's my expectations that we're going to get it done. Is it done now? No. Is Casa Grande Union a few weeks behind Vista in planning the schedule? Yes. But we're going to get it done. And then, but we may have some challenges that are unforeseen. But some of those decisions that we made last year, we won't make again, if that helps. Did I answer all parts of your question?
I think, because my follow-up was going to be about the guest teachers from out of the country.
We want them here as soon as we possibly can, but it's getting them out of their country. And so when that happens. Mrs. Aiken?
Yes, I just have a couple comments, and then and if any of you don't know Mr. Lasser, I totally have every confidence that he will at least get some of these things flipped around and just have patience with them, because he will. But the modern classroom, I really think that put a real damper on kids and the way that teachers
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to security guarding every one of them. But I've put 3 kids through this school and grandkids already, and I've never had a year like this, and I do really pray that you will get it at least halfway around. And that's all I have.
Well, Ms. Aiken, you know I'm going to give it my best, and I appreciate you setting the expectation that I'm going to make some difference. But I already got the person I wanted to be the principal. Because, you know, obviously, I've got a multitude of things that I'm focusing on, because there are things, there are things within, I'm sorry, ma'am?
If CG chat will just say some positive things instead of bringing them down all the time, I think we'll do a lot.
Well, I think we had a real win in hiring Mr. Robbins as our athletic director.
Absolutely.
And so yes, we're going to continue, but you know that we're going to continue to do those things, because I have full faith and confidence that this man can turn it around, and that I will provide him the support and the tools that he needs. He's still got to hire one more assistant principal, and so he will be in that process there. In doing that, I worked with him on selecting the new athletic director, and I will be a little, now that he and I have a little bit more understanding and how procedurally I like to see things and how I see he does, and I'm confident moving forward that I can be more of a fly on the wall watching the selection of the assistant principal and not working side by side with him. And it's because I've got personnel issues, leave policies, and a lot of these other things on the other end, and then we have an override, and I'm telling you right now, that is huge for this school district, is continuing to maintain that funding. Because one financial cliff is already coming, and that is the money that we receive through ESSER, which is the COVID relief funds. Those monies will be gone after next year. To lose another 3.5% of our budget, or about $1.2 million, and start having to find those cuts, when right now we're not, we don't have all of our teachers hired, is a challenge in itself. And so obviously I'm going to be spending a lot of time too working there. And you know, I'm real excited that the chairman of the Arizona, or the Republican caucus here in town, has already offered his endorsement of this. And so in getting him on board and spreading through his organizations, and we're planning on having others and building that team as well. And so communication, modern classroom is not going to be, I mean, it's not going to be the way it was rolled out this year. And so those things, hopefully we're going to get fixes. I really like the way he's going to communicate. I will tell you that after Chris walked out, when we interviewed him, both Vance and I looked at each other, and during the interview we both said, we feel like we're interviewing ourselves, which can be good and we can be bad, because we obviously want too many Jeffs and things like that. But we want people that are going to put children and the needs and the education of children first. We want people that are going to have fun and bring some fun back with pep rallies, student celebrations. Because it's sad that we're having this conversation 15 months after winning a state football championship. That we didn't take that, and because I went to a high school that won state championships. We built our whole school culture around state championships, and we haven't done that year. We lost that opportunity. So I told Randy, you got to go win me another state championship, and stuff like that. Did I kind of, I was going to go here, then I'm going to go to Nicole, then I'm going to go to you, Sanders. Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to talk about the attendance, like the sweeps and stuff, because I have 15 absences in my Spanish class, because
Right.
I can't just make it to all my classes, because I'm in the cafeteria and I have to run all the way to
Right.
my Spanish class, and then like it just
Right.
causes me stress trying to get there.
Sure. So he's asking an excellent question. Is 5 minutes enough time to get across campus and to get to classes? That's one of the things we're going to have to get together with our teams, school council, students, staff, and say, are we solutions-based? Is adding a minute going to help there? Is it going to eliminate our tardy problem and all of those things?
Before the bill schedule is built, it would be better to do that now before the bill schedule is built.
Right. So,
I wanted to thank you for this, because so many of the Title I meetings that we come to, which are mandated in order for you to get the Title I money, have nothing to do with getting feedback from parents. They just have to do with talking to us with PowerPoint presentations where they read the slides to us.
right.
And I just couldn't do another one of those. I just couldn't. So the fact that you created this open forum to actually get input, and I, like mistaken, happy to see other people have the same issues I have. I'm not crazy. It's really nice. But then I'd also like to make a plea to everybody who's in this room that we have a site council. The site council meets once a month. Now, previously, the site council was handled kind of like the Title I meetings, where there was an agenda where we basically had everything read to us that we could have been emailed to, and then we had to kind of force the opportunity for questions. I anticipate that's likely to change. So I would encourage all of you, you have great ideas, you have concerns that are similar to each other, and we're all going to be solution-based. So please, let's make site council a place where we can come together and do this on a monthly basis instead of just when we get a new principal. Because I think that that would be really great to carry this forward.
And I want to be clear, we're doing a town hall tomorrow night at Vista, and they don't have a new principal. And so this dialogue needs to continue. It's something that I value in that as well, but we need to continue because you're all part of the solution. Sanders.
Yeah, once again, thank you for putting this on. One common theme I heard tonight was everybody's talking about expectations. And I think it's a very, very good thing to be able to present, to the parents. They'll feed you their expectations, and the kids need to know what the expectations are of them. Reasonable, not unrealistic expectations, not chosen expectations, and then consequences for not meeting those expectations. I mean, that's all I heard in here tonight.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody else heard the same thing, but what are the expectations and how are they being communicated?
Yes.
To communicate all the expectations that educators have, the students have, and the parents have. COVID's over. COVID's over. Let's get past it, do the best we can. I don't know how anybody survived educationally through that last 3 years. Tough.
I had a full head of hair and a black beard prior to that.
Economically, globally, locally, you name it, we still have trickle-down effects of COVID, and we're going to have them for a long time. But it's going to be the expectations that we need to express and then be realistic with. And I just think, as a team, we got to come together.
Sanders, I just appreciate all the support. I think it was about 23 years ago now, Sanders asked me if I wanted to go to a leadership class in Las Vegas. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go to Las Vegas for a weekend, go to some class. I was going to ditch him, by the way. I was naive in not asking him more questions, because when we got off the plane in Vegas, we went to a bus terminal, and then I was bussed out to this town called Almo, Nevada, with a population. It was smaller than Gila Bend, for a weekend of gut-wrenching leadership experience. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And then a couple weeks later, we sent my assistant principals, and he and I flew up to Vegas in his private jet. And as we were coming back, we flew through an Arizona dust storm in a small plane with lightning flying by us. So I'll never forget that, sir, and I'll never forget the lessons I learned in rapport. And believe me, I will be using a lot of those lessons about getting outside outside of my fears and doing what's right for this district.
Expected to make it home sick.
Yes. Holly.
I've heard a lot of parents talk about the modern classroom and how it has not been successful for their students. And so
and maybe that's a conversation we have to have at both staffs and what teachers are planning on doing. Because I don't believe, to my knowledge, I believe some teachers are going to use it as a strategy that's used occasionally. It's not going to be the strategy we're using every day. And so, but we would have to have a conversation with teachers. Because I know it's been a huge source of frustration this year for everybody involved in it.
Are you measuring its effectiveness? Like, as a teacher, you know, it's always the end. It's like you're measuring, if you're bringing a strategy, you're measuring its effectiveness. Like, so is that like part of the evaluation of it? Or just...
We certainly have been looking at student grades this year. For example, one of the strategies that was implemented this year is students would receive no lower than that 40% on an assignment, even if they did nothing. If they at least tried the assignment, that it would be, they would get, I think it's 50%. So one of the things that I have discovered is there's no consistency in that policy, and who's enforcing it, who's not enforcing it. If we did this policy to cut down on the number of students failing, each week I get a report of breaking down student performance, and we're about 25% each week of students' grades right now are F grades. And so obviously that system hasn't been effective there. And so there is a committee, a grading committee that's looking at that. And so there's a lot of things that we have to look at. And the data that we've had this year of performance is not encouraging. And so I would consider it a victory right now if we kept our C grade. I will tell you that when he took over Apache Junction High School, they had a D grade and they got a B grade now. So he knows how to put systems in place to increase academic achievement. How it's going to turn out, I don't know. Yes, all the way in the back. So I think what I heard you say is students don't have a big enough voice in what's going on. Is that correct? You're absolutely right. And obviously when we talk about stakeholders, who's got the most to gain in this is the students. We need to hear those voices. And as Dr. Larry talked about, how his student council increase. We want a vibrant student council that's going to help drive the decisions and what's going on in this school. And we need that. And it's just part of this changing and valuing the input.
Well, I mean, what I was trying to do is I was trying to make like a whole like connected society, I guess you could say, of like students, parents, and then all the staff at the school.
So can I ask you when you're done to talk to Dr. Library about your ideas so we can look at this form as we go forward?
Yeah.
I would like a copy of that for my school and community relations class this summer, because one of my first assignments is going to be to define what are stakeholders, and if it comes from you as a student, I would love to share that resource with my teachers.
Okay, so can you share that with me? Yes.
Okay, so I'm in student council right now, and like every single club on campus, and it feels like administration just rejects every single idea that we have to promote school spirit. Like it literally took us 3 weeks to buy cookies for prom.
Okay.
And then, so we were supposed to sell 800 tickets for prom. We sold 400, and because nobody wanted to show because they knew it was going to suck, and it did because administration just doesn't want us to have fun. It feels like we have an amazing football team, a fantastic band, and we have 3 CTE state officers, and there's no school spirit. So I'm just
Yeah.
So on May 1st, they're doing a penny drive, and if they hit a certain number, I have to kiss a 17-foot long python.
Oh,
So,
yes.
Yeah. I should have thought before I did it. But I believe in that.
at me for that.
I believe in that. You have my word, you will have a voice.
Because we tried and nothing happens.
So one of the things we gotta do is start looking forward and working for solutions. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this goes back to the expectations, consequences, the grandma who had to basically be the discipliner when obviously staff members that's their job. I am one of those parents who's actually read the rules for the district and how they're supposed to be applied, whether it's for staff, for the student, for the parents, and all of those types of things. I really feel like the very first solution that we should really try to implement, and it's not about it being a negative, it's just about understanding that everybody in the district, whether it's the parents, the staff, the students, that they have that, what he's talking about, that open communication, that trifecta of we have your back. We're going to implement these rules and regulations that have obviously been there, and yes, some may need to be updated, but it doesn't mean that the foundation for all of these rules and policies don't actually work. Because before COVID, they were working. And like Sanders said, COVID is over. And the thing is that instead of continuing to cater to, the backlash of what we are going to continue to go through as a result of what COVID did to everybody's community, we really need to get back to the foundations, and the rules and the regs and the policies are already there. It would just be nice if from the district all the way down, they would be implemented.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I really feel like we need to go back to that.
Pretty clear.
Well, the kids are saying, because they're the ones that want to, because this is their
Right.
place. What I noticed though is a lot of times when it's the students, it's the smart kids or the popular kids. We forget about the kids who have other needs or the kids who can't participate after school because of their transportation needs. Is there a way that maybe we could, during the day, set up things like that so that everyone that's here has an opportunity rather than just those who can stay or just those who have different.
I think the student council here is a class and not a club, am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there should be opportunities for kids to get involved in that, but you're absolutely right.
Or maybe like, just, it's my first year here and I had no idea. So
Right.
maybe that's things that are available maybe need to be put out more so that everyone knows what's available and not just the
Right.
select few.
So, on what she said, right now, we literally have 40 minutes during the day for mastery time, which I don't think a single teacher actually knows what that's for, because every single teacher tells me it's for something else. And then, the student council class, we were literally told this year that the district was planning on getting rid of it, so the teacher could teach another science class.
I don't think that's the case, because I think that I gave the go-ahead for, I think it's Mrs. Brady.
Yes. It was before you got here.
No, but somebody recently brought it to my attention that I gave the green light for Mrs. Brady to continue to make that a class. And we talked about today about mastery time, and it's on our, they wanted to have a committee, and I said, no, not another committee. And so what we talked about is at the administrative retreat, our principal working with us and really how best to utilize this time.
And that might be something for some stakeholder feedback, and especially some stakeholder feedback from the ESS department.
Right.
Because that mastery time for a student on a 504, if they can get connected with the right resources, can make all the difference in that student succeeding or not. And students who don't have the benefit of a 504 should be afforded the same opportunity to use that time to succeed.
Yeah. We certainly are going to look at that. We also have, what do we hope to accomplish in there and that. And so it's a time right now that we have. It's in the schedule for next year, but we don't really have a clear pathway or expectation or vision for how we want to use it, and we need to develop that. Yes?
At the beginning, you said that there were other issues that were not town hall related, that we could reach out to you. I checked the directory, you guys are not listed. When do you plan on getting that updated so we can reach out to you?
I'm not sure.
The website.
The email's on the website, your email.
Are you, I guess, I don't know, I haven't tried to email myself yet, so I don't know.
under
Yeah.
administration, but Dr. Library won't appear on ours until he's fully on staff.
Oh, no.
I was gonna say.
Dr. Limeberry his email was activated this morning because he's got a survey that he wants to give to the staff, and I said, you know what? I want you to send this out. So he has an email address now. Chris Limeberry at CGUHSD. But yeah, if you want to, and obviously if you email me. And so I think if you go to the district, the superintendent's office, my email address is there. If you email other people, it's simple, jlavender@cguhsd.org. It's the first initial and the last name, so certainly there. Did I see a hand?
Can I just add, don't hold me to the 24-hour rule yet, please.
Are you busy?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Both my kids, I'll be honest, they focus more on the extracurricular activities. We are very fortunate we have Penny Flores to with us for ROTC. My kids do football, they do automotives, they do welding. Is that something that we're still going to be very protective of with Union? That my kids are supposed to go to this stuff. They want to come to Union because those programs are offered here, not there. Are those things that are protected, I guess?
So Dr. Limeberry may not be aware of some of the issues starting the year with junior ROTC. And so he's looking at me and so we do have 2 instructors for both programs next year, plus we have a backup instructor if something were to happen. So junior ROTC will be on both campuses. We did, and Mrs. Miller, our CTE director, is there. We did offer and hired a FFA teacher. And so she toured the campus a week ago during the weekend. We got her on board. She's doing her student teaching right now at Gilbert High School, which is where Mr. Farnsworth is going to. And so, we're disappointed we lost Mr. Farnsworth, but I hope people understand that's where he went to high school. He's going back home. They've got some programs there that we hope to bring in. 1 year of meat processing. I'm not too familiar, but I know there's a meat processing thing that they have in their program that we don't have yet. And so these are some of the things. And so we do have that program here. I can't think of any program we're looking to cut next year. One of the things that's been on my radar is the AIA has approved girls flag football to start next year. And so we created the stipends to hire girls football coaches on both campuses. On Tuesday, May 16th, Anthony Edwards, former Arizona Cardinal, Randy Robbins, our athletic director, Louis Ramirez, Vista's athletic director, are doing a clinic for girls athletes age 6 through 12 on flag football to pump up the enthusiasm for this and getting that sport off the ground. So I see us increasing some offerings next year, but we also want to increase the number of students involved in these activities. So it's not 12 or 15 involved in student council, it's 60 or 70. But I don't, as long as we have success in November, we can continue to offer these programs and move forward. Mike?
As for Dr. Lineberg?
Yes, sir.
Where do you see yourself in 5-8 years from now?
Well, when he asked me that question in the interview, I said, standing next to you on the stage at a graduation, having built the kind of campus that you and this community want. And that's still my answer. Now, we got to get him to stand on that stage in 5 to 8 years. But that would be my answer. I want to be here.
The other thing that I think you asked, if you live here in where you live, I was in the elementary district for 45 years before I retired. And I coached several sports here at Union as well as at Vista. And the one thing that I saw in that time from administrators, athletic directors, and even head coaches, they didn't live here. And I know what your situation is with your wife in Paradise Valley and your family. I know that can be a hassle. But those people that I saw that didn't live here, when they hit the interstate and headed back up to the valley, good old Casa Grande was by itself on Friday night. 5 o'clock, they left town, and whatever went on between Friday and Monday, they were not part of the community. They couldn't vote for bond issues, they couldn't vote for mayor, they couldn't do many of the things that a local resident could do. So I would hope that you could work out a situation where you could become, if you wanted to be up on that stage, that the kids, the community can see you as being a vital part of the community, not just as a principal, but as a citizen of the community.
That would be my hope as well. And I was at Stanfield for 6 years.
Yeah, I was aware. I was teaching PE when you established that program over there.
Doing that drive every day for 6 years. So
I understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate you taking all the questions and all I've asked quite a few. My daughter wanted me to ask, there's a lot of AP math classes, for example, but what about AP literature? Now I know with that, a lot of it comes down to, like you said, staffing. You have staff to be able to teach a class, to offer a program. Budget is an issue. You have to be able to fund such programs. But are there any specific programs that you would like to see, like you're talking about the ACT program, you want to maintain things like the JRCC, as far as like curriculum or things where directions you want to go or what would you like to do?
I don't know what's here right now. I can tell you that one of the things we've done in Apache Junction is work very closely with Central Arizona College to provide dual enrollment courses or concurrent enrollment so that kids can get both high school and college credit. That's very valuable. It exposes kids in a different way to education at a higher level. We've also got some AP classes that we've added, and we're adding more math classes in the next year. So that was one thing that I really wanted to do when I got to AJ, was get involved with CAC, and we were able to build a relationship with them, and as a result of that, we were able to have greater offerings for our kids. I don't know if I answered your question accurately or not. I don't know what's here at this point.
So when you say advanced literature classes, you're not talking the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade English, am I correct?
You're talking about AP, right? AP English.
There's a lot of research out on AP, and I'd like this district to really take a close look at it, as all districts should, because parents have been sold a bill of goods on AP, and we should be looking at dual enrollment, not AP. AP costs money, puts all of your eggs into one testing basket, and then different universities require different cut scores to receive different amounts of credit, depending upon where you go, and so there's no equity there. And so if we look at dual enrollment, so that the English class they take here in literature is matched to a CAC class, and the dual enrollment is transcripted, then a C or higher goes with your student anywhere they go to college as transfer credit, anywhere. And so that is really important, that we look at not putting more eggs in AP and put more eggs in dual enrollment, which has some issues for certification teachers and HLC requirements and stuff, but I think those are things we can work towards solutions. And I think that that would really be the best thing that this district could do at both schools to help our students, whether they're going on to community college or university or even nowhere right now, but will in 10 years, those credits will go with them.
So we were also able to get, I think, 6 credits a semester at no charge for our students, up to 12 for the year.
And I know that we have had students graduate from Union at the same time they're graduating from Central Arizona College. It's possible. And what we want to do is we want to provide opportunities for all students to feel connected to this school, to meet their academic needs. And so what I would encourage your daughter to do is dialogue with us. And so, because in those things, and she's absolutely right, we need to continue. Our student council member back here.
So I'm in AP classes and CC classes right now, and somehow we're not classes right now, but there's no, like, the guidelines for CC classes connecting here are so unclear. Last week I was in all 3 different counselors that I know, and all 3 gave me a completely different answer on how to transfer from year to year. I had to figure out everything on my own. I'm just helping everybody else, because the counselors don't even know our connection.
Right. That's part of the work that we have to do, absolutely. And so we will continue. I'm starting to see people start to leave because I was like, how long are we going to go tonight? And things like that. We want to answer all your questions, but it's coming up on 9 o'clock. And so are there any other burning questions there?
Did you say you're going to review the grading policy? I just want to make sure.
There's a committee that's looking at that, yes.
My 2 that are still going to be here, that is a massive concern because like the whole 80-20 thing, like some things being weighted 80% and 20%, like there's been a lot of negative effects of that.
Yeah.
That was just one thing we wanted to make sure.
Yeah, there is a committee that's looking at that, and we're gonna figure out some of those things. All the way in the back, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, on another note, I'll bring my kids up to Lago with you, and I'm thrilled that you're in this position as a done starting high school. If anybody can deal with all the stuff, I think we can.
Thank you.
And I really genuinely care about kids. And I'm really glad to hear what you said, Dr. Lawyer, about caring about kids as well. I know that was a really big issue with both my girls in here. They were top tier students academically and behaviorally, and yet they only had 2 or 3 staff that they felt actually cared about them. Including one of the older that over here. But they actually had more than that they felt were actively working against them. To the point that my second daughter, she almost lost out on her scholarship, and I had to get involved in it to get it straightened out. And she ended up being one of the top scholarship students last year. So, but there were times they wanted to just give up, and I'm blessed that they were so set on their goals that they didn't. But I can't imagine kids who aren't that set on their goals, who don't love education that much, what that would feel like for them too. So.
Absolutely, you could have said it better. Now, the school board members who are here, what she just said, that's how my kids are. Came out of Bulaga, good kids academically, behaviorally, and want to just quit. They've given up, and it's so sad to see that spark go away. But they have goals, and so they feel like they just have to survive the school.
Yeah.
So that they can get to their goals.
Yeah, and like you just gotta get through this and get to college, and they did. But that's a horrible way to feel about your school.
And having you told me they went to Valago and experiencing that now is very sad because that's certainly not in my code. When we talk about my value system, and so because there's a few things that I impress upon the staff, and we'll be talking, and I've already emailed the high school teachers. I was not a superstar student. I was a student that was very detached and not motivated at all when I went to high school, and had very limited to no relationships with any of my teachers. We know that how an educator makes a student feel will stay with them for the rest of their life. So those negative experiences and those positive experiences is what we're going to take away. And so coming from somebody that knows the impact of some of those negative experiences, it's just not going to be tolerated. And so we have to continue. And there's a TED Talk called Drew Dudley, Lollipop Moments. And I realize Lollipop Awards may be a little bit corny for high school and things like that, but in there they talk about creating those moments when you impact somebody's life. And if you ever get an opportunity, it's a great TED Talk where it talks about the power when we treat people with respect, when we inspire people. And we have to continue to do that. And we have to change that mindset. We have to also be mindful that our words can be hurtful, that sometimes motivating attempts to motivate students can be very damaging. As a high school student, my dad was a professor at ASU, and he used to, one of his students that he worked with was Mark Malone, who went on and played with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mark Malone would come to our house and complain about Frank Cush and the treatment that Frank Cush would give him, the vulgarities that Coach Cush would use. That style of coaching is not going to work anymore, is it? Frank Cush could not coach at ASU today and have the success that he had in the 60s and 70s at ASU, because all those players would walk out of there and say, "You're not going to treat me this way." And so we have to capture their hearts first, and we have to make them feel good about themselves. And so that's and that's, again, one of the reasons this man is standing here tonight is I know he believes that as much as I believe it. And that's important to me moving in to that. And Donna Tejas is going to be our new assistant principal. I know she believes that as well. And she's got a love for this school that is incredible in her years of service. And she's going to share that and work with him on that. And so we're going to get that team in place that's going to change this. And the conversation tonight is going to help us know what we need to do moving forward, that we've got a long job ahead of us.
And it's a start. It's a start of a process, and we want to keep the process going. So your input is invaluable. So please continue to provide it.
So we're going to be up here if any of you want to come up and talk to us individually, but we thank you for coming tonight. Drive safe. Tomorrow night we're at Vista Grande. Mr. Danzy will be up on the stage with me.